Tempura looks like one of the simplest foods in the world. You dip something in batter, you fry it in oil, you eat it hot. That is what most people think tempura is. Just battered, deep-fried seafood and vegetables. But that description misses almost everything that actually matters. Because tempura is not really a food, it is a technique. And it is one of the most precise, most difficult, and most misunderstood techniques in all of cooking. Real tempura is so light it almost shatters. The coating is thin, lacy, and barely there. It crackles instead of crunches. It tastes clean instead of greasy. And getting it to that point is incredibly hard. There is also a surprising secret hidden in its history. Tempura is not originally Japanese. We will get to that. But first, let us decode what tempura actually is. The whole point of tempura is contrast. A crisp, delicate, almost weightless shell on the outside, and a soft, perfectly cooked, almost steamed interior on the inside. That contrast is the entire goal. The shrimp stays tender, the vegetable stays sweet, the fish stays moist. But the coating turns into something light and brittle that protects the food while it cooks. When tempura is done badly, that balance collapses. The coating becomes thick, heavy, and oily. The inside becomes overcooked or soggy, and the whole thing feels like generic fried food. That is the version most people have eaten. And that is exactly why most people underestimate tempura. Quick pause before we go deeper. If you're enjoying this so far, hit that thumbs up button below the video. It really helps me reach more food lovers like you. And if you're new here, subscribe to Food Decoded for weekly deep dives into what you're really eating. Now here is the part that surprises almost everyone. Tempura did not start in Japan. It arrived in the 1500s, brought by Portuguese missionaries and traders. The Portuguese had a tradition of battering and frying vegetables, especially during religious periods when meat was forbidden. The name itself likely comes from a Latin-based word connected to those times of fasting. So the basic idea, dipping food in batter and frying it, came from Europe. But here is the important part. The Japanese did not just copy it. They refined it for centuries until it became something completely different. They made the batter lighter. They made the frying more precise. They turned a rustic European cooking method into a delicate culinary art form. By the time tempura matured in Japan, it barely resembled where it came from. That is a recurring theme in Japanese cuisine. Take an outside influence, strip it down, refine it obsessively, and turn it into something with its own identity. Japanese curry came from Britain. Ramen has roots connected to China, and tempura came from Portugal. But all three became unmistakably Japanese. And this brings us to the heart of tempura, the batter. The batter is everything, and it is the single biggest reason most tempura fails. A good tempura batter is shockingly simple, usually just flour, egg, and water. But the way it is mixed changes everything. Here is the key idea. You do not want to develop gluten. Gluten is the protein network that gives bread its chew and structure. In bread, gluten is good. In tempura, gluten is the enemy. If you overmix the batter, gluten develops and the coating becomes thick, chewy, and heavy. So tempura chefs do the opposite of what feels natural. They barely mix the batter. They leave it lumpy. They use ice-cold water, sometimes even sparkling water, to keep the temperature low and slow down gluten formation. And they often mix it for only a few seconds. The goal is a thin, loose, barely combined batter that fries into something almost lace-like. This is why tempura batter is mixed in small batches. It cannot sit around. The moment it warms up, it starts to change. A great tempura chef treats the batter almost like a living thing that is constantly working against them. And that is just the batter. The oil is its own challenge. If what you just learned surprised you, do me a small favor. Drop a like on this video. It helps other curious eaters find this exact breakdown when they need it most. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect moment, because the part most people get completely wrong is coming up next. Temperature is the second pillar of tempura, and it is brutal to control. If the oil is too cold, the batter absorbs it. The coating becomes greasy, soft, and heavy. The food sits in the oil instead of crisping. If the oil is too hot, the outside burns before the inside cooks. You get a dark shell and a raw center. Real tempura lives in a very narrow temperature window, and that window changes depending on what is being fried. Delicate vegetables need a slightly different temperature than shrimp. Dense vegetables need different timing than leafy ones. A skilled tempura chef adjusts constantly, often by sound and sight alone. They listen to the bubbles. They watch how the batter floats. They feel the rhythm of the oil. This is why high-end tempura restaurants in Japan cook everything to order, piece by piece, served the moment it leaves the oil. Tempura is not meant to sit. The instant it is done, it begins to lose its texture. That is why the best tempura experience is often at a counter, where the chef hands you each piece directly. You eat it within seconds. And in those seconds, it is at a level of crispness that is almost impossible to recreate any other way. But here is what most people miss. The crispness is not the real goal. The crispness is just the delivery system. The real goal is to protect and gently cook whatever is inside. Think about it. The batter forms a barrier. The water in the batter turns to steam as it hits the hot oil. That steam actually steams the food from the inside of the shell while the outside crisps. So tempura is not really deep frying in the way people imagine. It is closer to flash steaming inside a crisp, protective shell. The shrimp does not fry. It steams inside its coating. The vegetable does not soak in oil. It cooks in its own moisture, sealed by the batter. That is the genius of the technique. It uses the batter to create two completely different cooking environments at the same time. Crisp and dry on the outside, moist and gentle on the inside. And that dual nature is exactly what makes it so hard. Every variable affects both environments at once. This is also why tempura pairs so naturally with other Japanese dishes. Tempura on top of udon gives you crisp texture against soft, chewy noodles in warm broth. Tempura with soba does the same with a nuttier, more delicate noodle. Tempura over rice, known as tendon, lets the light coating soak up just a little sweet savory sauce. In every case, tempura provides contrast. It is rarely the entire meal. It is the texture that makes everything around it more interesting. And that tells you something about how Japanese cuisine thinks about food. It is often about balance and contrast rather than one overwhelming element. Soft against crisp, warm against cool, rich against clean. Tempura is one of the clearest expressions of that idea. So now we reach the real twist. The biggest mistake people make with tempura is thinking it is about the frying. It is not. Tempura is about restraint. It is about doing less, not more. Less mixing, less batter, less time in the oil, less heaviness. Almost everything about great tempura is about holding back. A beginner adds more batter for safety. A master uses as little as possible. A beginner fries longer to be sure. A master pulls it out at the exact right second. The whole discipline is about precision and restraint, not power. And that is why tempura is so deceptively hard. It looks like the easiest thing in the world. Dip, fry, done. But mastering it can take years. There are tempura chefs in Japan who have spent decades perfecting nothing but this single technique. Not because the steps are complicated, but because the margin for error is so small. So if you only take one thing from this video, let it be this. Tempura is not just battered fried food. It is a refined technique built around contrast, temperature, and restraint, borrowed from Portugal and perfected over centuries in Japan. And once you understand that, you stop seeing tempura as simple. You start seeing it as one of the quiet masterpieces of the kitchen. What is the best tempura you have ever had? Tell me in the comments, and let me know if you were surprised that it came from Portugal originally. If this video helped you understand tempura a little better, please leave a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, join Food Decoded for more culinary clarity every week. If you want to see what tempura pairs with best, watch Udon Decoded on the left. We break down why these thick noodles became one of Japan's most comforting foods. Or if you want another deep dive into how Japan refines borrowed ideas, check out Soba Decoded on the right. I'm Food Decoded. See you in the next one.